Okay, I'd said I was going to go and do separate videos for each book. I'm going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. I've gotten over time a couple requests to come speak and read some of the poems, things of that nature, things that I wasn't able to do due to time restraints, things of that nature. And also, as much as I do like doing the speaking engagements and as much as I like talking to people, sometimes reading the poetry at first initially was hard. There were poems that honestly, emotionally, were really hard for me to read um, and go over that. I had hard time with most every time I looked at it. The King of Dirt was always hard for me. Uh, you know, We Three is a little hard for me to get through. But I'd been asked on those occasions. I'd also been asked, when I mentioned this video platform of would you do some of the poems, maybe some live reads? And I said yes, I would do that. And honestly, it slipped by my mind, and this project got pushed back and pushed back. And today, someone named Harvey Thomas commented on a picture and or a poem or a post, a video. I don't remember what it was, and asked the same thing. And I directed him towards the YouTube page, and so I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to do our personalized video about Coal Kingdom, and then I'm also going to do some live readings from that. It will be kind of a long video, but it's my chance to the people that I don't get to speak in front of. Um, what we done at Somerset Community College was amazing. What my son and I have got to do in the grade schools has been fun. The radio interviews have been great, but long form, I've not had the opportunity to sit and break down the book. I would like to do an event like that where I sit and break down the book from when I wrote it, thought process of writing it all the way through. And if I was ever given any inclination by people that anybody would want to see that, I would do that. I don't know if anybody has any interest in it. It's not about me being a great author, a great poet, or this being a phenomenal book. It's about how someone who's not really a very good poet and definitely a less than mediocre author and horrible uh, as far as his concepts of grammar and English go, was able to, you know, publish a book. So it's more of a exercise in anyone can do it than wow, this is great. But that's something I'm looking at down the road. I'd like to do at least one speaking engagement where we could kind of get into the guts of that. I don't know where how to facilitate that. I thought about reaching out to maybe the Artisan Center, somebody like that. But if anybody has any ideas on that, I would be more than appreciative to hear it. But let's break down and look at Coal Kingdom. Um, I published this January of 18. Um, the works inside of it range from a large swath of time. To me personally, I look at the book as being filled with material from three specific areas. Um, Living in eastern Kentucky and its coal roots, um, drug and family issues that a lot of people in eastern Kentucky face, and then personal things. Those personal items span way back, um, a couple years. Um, the drug addiction ones hit there towards the middle, um, and the family ones, the personal ones, like I said, were way back, but the coal ones were more of a reflection of what I was seeing at the time that I actually was doing a good chunk of editing and writing for this book. And a lot of people hear me say, they go back a couple years. what about older stuff you've written before that? There's not any. From probably about, I would say, the age of 12 or 13 until the age of 17 or 18, not in quality, but in quantity, I was a prolific writer. I would say upon marrying my wife, I had thousands, plural, poems written, and other little things, sayings, quotes. My biggest fear was that someone like her that I really loved and really wanted to know me would read those. And looking back at it now, that doesn't seem rational, but at the time, I had a lot of insecurity about myself and about my writings, and I still do to some degree. So I threw those completely away, and I quit writing for a long time. I eventually transitioned into writing music more, but then another member of our band, I wrote up until I joined the last band I was in, and a member of that band, Bruce, musically was a far superior writer, and I knew that, but I had the notion that I was going to do more lyrically. He kind of went in a different direction than I went in, and also I seen immediately that his ability to write songs was far better than mine, and I really, in all honesty, fell in love with the way he wrote songs. There's a song we had called "You Should Hate Me" that still, I like it. So many songs we done that he wrote. So I stuck with kind of writing songs myself, musically and lyrically, not really sharing that with the band. Because again, I was kind of nervous about that. And musically, when I did share things, all I could do was take it to Bruce and let him put the pieces together. It had been that way with my friend Eric before he passed away. He done that with all my stuff. So I went from writing poetry to writing music, and then I made this transition to writing nothing. I lost my grandfather, who I was very close with, my uncle, who I was very close with, one of my best friends in the whole world, who I had allowed myself to become separated from to some degree. And I lost all those people, and life was going good. I didn't like my job. I was complacent in a lot of things, but I wasn't happy in a lot of things, and stress and not allowing myself the opportunity to properly mourn, I believe, when my uncle and my grandfather died, trying to be strong for other people, left me a little hollow, and I just started writing again one day, and it was cathartic, and it was amazing, and it brought out everything I needed to bring out, and it got me till this point, to where I was ready to do something with these writings. And I went through and cherry picked what I liked out of what I had, and then I thought, I'll just do it. I batted around a different name, Toby. A couple people, very few people would understand that reference. Jay Perkins, Jay Honeycutt, my grandfather's last name, my mother's maiden name. I messed around with a lot because my fear was still someone would read it. And I finally just said, you know what, so I'm going to do it. And I did it. And I'm happy that I did it. And I feel like it was the right thing to do. And it helped me a lot. And even though it's not a big deal and it's not this huge thing, it's not a bestseller, I've not made it famous off of it, a couple people have said things to me that I know it affected them. I know that it had a positive effect on them in some way because of things they said and how they said them. And they got the reference. They got the idea. They got the point behind the writing. And that was worth everything. And that really made it special for me. The book is, again, to me, broken down into those three facets of my life. Living in Eastern Kentucky and its history with coal. I'm not a coal miner, and I get so much. The two questions I get constantly that one doesn't bother me, and that is how long did you work in coal? I understand that, but I didn't, and understand I'm not trying to imply that I did. Coal, for good or bad, and it is both. Regardless of what you may think, no matter how narrow-minded your frame of mind is, it is both good and bad. Coal has impacted and shaped this region. No matter what, no matter what you think, that's a statistical fact. It can be proven over many different parts of our lives. And then the second question I get, and the one that irritates me the most, is this book pro-coal or anti-coal? It's neither. It's pro-mountain people. It's pro-Eastern Kentucky. We've not done everything right. We've not done everything wrong. We're somewhere in the middle, just like everybody else from everywhere else in the country, but we often get painted with a very broad brush and a very negative one. I'm a hillbilly. I come from the mountains, and I'm very proud of that. There's been times I've not loved where I lived because I've not liked it myself. I can't imagine living in one place my entire life. That scares me, but that's something that a son that's autistic and doesn't like change is all about, and a wife who is very rooted here and wants. But myself and my daughter, that's not us. I think we're both wanderers. We're both travelers, and you know, I think she'll do those things. She'll see those places I may never get to see, and she'll do those things I may never get to do. But it's very pro mountain people, and that's all that matters. I don't think it's anti or pro coal. Again, there has been good and bad throughout this time. I think the days of coal are long gone. And I think that's a sobering truth, but that's a truth that if we do not accept, maybe a lot of our ways of life will be lost with it. But the book broken down into that coal and then drug addiction, which is very often unfairly thrown on us as a cross that we must bear, and we must. But doctors and pharmaceutical companies bear the majority of that weight of that load to me. The numbers don't lie. The amount of prescription pills that have been filtered in from West Virginia down into Kentucky and all these mountain states, and our people have suffered, and our people have been the butt of the joke. But our people have paid for a lot of corporate getaways and a lot of meals that these pharmaceutical reps provide at these doctors' offices, and these trips that these doctors go on. Our people have paid a heavy cost, and a lot of people have profited from that cost, and yet we just get to be the butt of the joke. We don't get to be the victim, or not even that we want, that our people want to be that, but we don't get to be recognized as a pawn in something that we didn't ask for. And that third part is of the book is those personal aspects. What happened personally in my life. So what I was going to do, once I've told you about the book and everything in it, was read you a poem from each of those three. I didn't think about this beforehand. I just wanted to come in blindly and pick three. I am going to do other videos that are much shorter, just me doing readings. So there's certain poems I would like to do in that vein that makes it easier to get across that poem when it's isolated. But I do want to pick three right now to kind of get through those three things that I feel the book hits on. So first we're going to look at coal. A lot of these mean a lot to me. And again, I want to do a lot of these individually. But hand-me-downs is one that that I think would be very representative of some of the coal industry representation and the coal miners, how they're represented in this book. To some degree, it's one aspect of it. So for the coal portion of this program, this is called Hand-Me-Downs. They often lived with empty stomachs and broken heart, slaves to the company store from the start, worked like a bank mule hooked to a heavy cart, property of coal kings and the empire they own, worked to grow the master's fortune and pad his throne, worked until all life and hope was gone. Then came unions and new hope, fairness always at the end of an endless rope, same dangers at the bottom of a new slope. Companies and unions have come and went, bodies ever broken and bent, same good men for sale or rent. Coal camps crumble as 10-wheelers gather dust. New jobs and new hope are now a must. You can't feed a family off black lung and coal dust. Always being sent back into the same ground. When working backwards, new paths are never found. Today's New Deal has a familiar sound. More talk of progress and a clean start, followed by the same empty wallet and sad heart. Company stores are now gone. Souls are now sold to the local Walmart. Each generation shows less and less trust into the same world they are continually thrust. Borrow daddy's lamp and bucket and go back to work before the mine works rust. Hand-me-downs of coal dust covered regret. Hand-me-downs of fruit not ripe just yet. Nothing to hand down but death and debt. I think that is trying to get across a point that these companies have made millions in these mountains. And people outside the mountains have blamed the miners for the mines. And people outside of here have blamed the miners for the destruction done to the landscape. And the companies have gotten off scot-free. They've made their money and taken it away from here. Eastern Kentucky has paved the roads in Lexington. Eastern Kentucky has built new additions on the Rupp Arena, or so it's been said. Eastern Kentucky has done a lot of good for a lot of people and taken every negative criticism from it. And every time those companies that have broken our fathers and grandfathers, tore out the hearts of our mothers and aunts and grandmothers, every time they come back, with the way it's structured right now, we have no choice but to run back and hit those mines and take what money we can get while it's there. So maybe it's commentary on what mines and corporations have done to us. Or maybe it's commentary on how strong and unbreakable mountain people are. But either way, it's a commentary, and as you read it, you can read it for yourself. Now, to find something that represents more of that drug and, I guess drug culture, which there's not a ton of. I'm going to do one called American Revival. I think a lot of these are personal. And some of them are, I guess, could fall under what you'd call miscellaneous. But American Revival maybe reflects a little bit of that drug issue in Eastern Kentucky. It says, American Revival. Battered girl, broken on the floor. Weaker man, fist through the door. They seek synthetic satisfaction and nothing more. He, the hateful dealer, she, the heathen whore. They now blend with the masses, scarred skin and darker glasses. Born of this new religion whose prophet comes from a lab, following a new Messiah, leaving the fallen on a slab. This new Savior has many forms to help them escape. Innocent minds he will rape. New faith born of poverty and government funding. The future is here, no sense in running. They always partake in the ritual act. Their release is a prison, in fact. Break the body after you enslave the mind. Spread the gospel, new converts you must find. New God to replace the faith they once had. Now they eternally chase the rush that the first baptism had. Chase and chase until they go mad. Crush, snort, shoot, repeat. It's hard to walk on bleeding feet. New Lord is a false prophet. He continues to disappoint as he makes a profit. As the world falls around them, they seek their old God. They fight to flee the beast trapped under his forked rod. Now they must break or bend. The choice is theirs in the end. I don't think that has as much religious connotation as people want to put on it. To someone severely addicted to something, and it doesn't have to be drugs, to anything, that takes over a place in their life and holds a place of value in their life that religion and deities hold in other people's lives. So it's kind of looking at it from that point that yes, they made that initial choice to go down that road, but I don't think they had any idea what was ahead of them. If they did, I truly don't think they would have went. But once they've started down that road, it's a hard road to get off of. So that's the drug side. The personal side is hard because there's a lot in here that are personal. It's just the way it worked out. The next book will probably be the same. King of Dirt is obviously one of my favorites, and it's something I always go to, so I won't do that this time. I won't do one about my grandfather at all, because, well, that just seems to be where I go with all of them. I won't do We Three. I'd like to do it personally at a different time, separate, and allow it to, I don't know, allow it to kind of do its own thing. Let me see. Well, I'm going to do one. Why not be controversial when you can? Most of these are about family members. Most of these are about things, the personal ones that are very personal to me, about my mother, about my father, about my grandparents or my uncle. But buying a better seat. It's one that I think a lot of people need to hear. My grandmother's passed away. I don't know if she ever read this. But if she did, I hope it made her think and reflect on who she was and how she treated people. And I think there's a lot of people out there that need to think and reflect on who they are and how they treat people. Be confident in who you are and how good you are to people. And don't worry about what people with forked tongues can tell other people and what they can convince them of. Because most of the time, a great number of people are fools. So people speaking to fools will gather the larger crowd. This is a poem called Buying a Better Seat. I know a woman who tried to buy a better seat. In the process, she trampled her family under feet. She gave every dollar she could steal, all in the hopes of improving the way she would feel. She showed no love or joy. She wove a dark and lonely story. There she sits in her castle all alone. Everyone who ever loved her now gone. Forgiveness she seeks not. Her own greed is all she's got. She gave all she had to give. Forever she does wish to live. Hopeless in her own pathetic way, alone day after day after day. She often reflects on what she is not. She quietly ponders, is hell really hot? I think people have issue when they know the context of how that poem came to be and why I wrote it. But I don't have any regrets. That's how I felt then, and that's how I feel now. Some people live a sad life of hate, and they hurt a lot of people in their wake. Looking at these, there may be a fourth and final section in here. There are poems that are not reflective of Cole, but reflective of Eastern Kentucky people. And there's a lot of, In These Hills, Clear Waters, and Kudzu that are about our natural area around us. There's those. There's one more I'll do. It's more reflective maybe of local people and the area, but not so much the coal industry. Just I don't know. It's something that reminds me of some aspects of Eastern Kentucky. It's called Making Amends. Landscapes dotted with crosses and stacked stones. A field of soft soil and buried bones. Dead flowers swept away with wind and caught in fence lines. Beautiful backdrops of steep hills and large pines. Battered flags flapping and fraying in occasional wind. Cold stone benches where hearts try to mend. The smell of flowers, cut grass, and fresh dirt. Endless fields where we plant pain and grow hurt. Often adorned with the symbols of faith and hope. These things help the living cope. Weathered headstones crack as they inevitably age. They read like the book of life, each one a new page. It's these places we the living most dread. In these places we the living hide our dead. We often go there to try to set right in death what we could not in life. We learn to make amends with the dead so as not to live in strife. I don't think this is much reflective of Eastern Kentucky as any type of social commentary as it just is that particular description of a graveyard being on a hillside and those things that people in a more flat environment may not associate with graveyards. But that's a little sample of some of what's in the book. And again, for guys like Harvey, I am going to go back and do separate readings of certain poems, but I wanted to at least give the basic gist of the book and what it's about. A lot of people helped me with this book, even once it was out. I get nervous and I'm horrible with names, so I can only remember her maiden name due to her son. But Donna Vangeort was very, very helpful, very instrumental in me being able to speak and do certain engagements and have this book. This is the second edition, error-free. There was a bad mishap with files on the first error, so you may have an error-filled book if you have this. This one is fixed, grammatically correct. The right file was sent, but it went over again. Without her, that would not have been possible whatsoever. Tammy Fletcher Fields. who always is positive and always believes in me. And she was working at Hot Rods Pizza, and they gave me the opportunity to do a book signing. Something my son was crazy over, but that meant a lot to me too. And you know, I can imagine the laughs that a real author would give doing a book signing in a pizza place. I hope I do another one someday. I loved it, and it meant the world to me. The people at East Prairie Elementary was the first school that really reached out to us, but we went to other schools, I think, before we made it to them. My wife and kids are obviously a great inspiration, as well as my friends and stuff that read the book. My friend Mandy, because I could bounce things off of her and say, look, I'm thinking about doing this. How ridiculous does this sound? Without Eric here, and even if he was being one of my best friends, it's probably not something I would have bounced off him, but Mandy was that third person in that group, and for all the things that me and Eric differed on, me and her were similar on, and all the things that her and I differ on, her and Eric were similar on, and they had a connection that I can't fathom, but I was very fortunate to have both of them in my life, and she's a great friend of my wife and myself both. Kathy Conley, because she's always unbelievably supportive and an amazing teacher. But a lot of people helped me with this. And I'm probably forgetting people because I get nervous when I thank people, because I do forget a lot of people. And if I am forgetting you, I'm sorry. Brando Van Joy, Brando's just a good dude, and he motivates me to do things. And it was because he motivated me that I decided to start this YouTube page. So that was our video, specifically just for Coal Kingdom. So Amazon, $6, available for free shipping with Amazon Prime. If you want to book me for events, author jperk at jperk at gmail.com, or go on Facebook at author J Perkins. Get a hold of me. Somebody you know probably knows me. But thank you.